Welcome, Jennifer. Thank you for taking the time for this interview. And of course, I've been following some of the developments with your campaign on Facebook, but for everyone else, and that includes the US Transhumanist Party officers who will be watching the recording, if you could summarize for us the position that you're running for, as well as what has happened thus far in your efforts, I think that would be a good start.
Sure. Thanks also for having me and for having the meeting. And also anybody else that's interested in following the progression of the campaign is more than welcome to also be added to the working group that we have on Facebook if they want to see. So far, I'm running for Mayor of Camden City in New Jersey. I am running independent. I had actually been talking to Gennady about possibly running with the Transhumanist Party, but the way that the political structure is here, they only allow us to run either Democratic or Republican or completely independent of a party whatsoever. So there's an interesting political history here, which in the last 6 elections for mayor anyway, I didn't go back too far past that because that at that point it's quite a bit. There is always a Democratic nominee, and there's usually about 3 that run for the primary election, and then 1 is selected. And then after that, no one challenges the Democratic nominee. There's no Republican candidate, there's no independent candidates. So each of these 6 elections, whoever is the nominee of the primary defaults and wins for basically at the general, because there's no one to vote for. Some of the things that have been going on in the past with some of the people that have gotten the position of mayor have had some things that were not necessarily in the best interest of the citizen. They've been arrested for things like embezzlements and briberies and stuff like that. And there's a lot of issues here. It's one of the poorest cities in the entire United States, if not the poorest metro city in the United States. And there's a lot of issues because of that need to be resolved. And the people that are living here have really gone through it and are still going through it. So I was more interested in running independent, I think, than trying to come onto the Democratic Party and be their nominee and go through whatever was going on with that, only because, not only because, but partially because they kind of already have their nominee selected that they want. So the current mayor is not rerunning. It's a new candidate. And so basically by going independent, I need to get the signatures of 100 registered voters, which I've already gotten the ballots for, the official ballots for, and I'm speaking with a company that does lists so that I can go and speak to everybody right in the area that I know is registered already and things. But I also have registration ballots with me, just in case, when I'm speaking to them, we can look up to make sure that they're active or inactive or registered at all. And if they aren't, that way I'll have the ballots with me just to make it easier. So I could, send those in. So one of the other kind of unique things about this, especially being a metro city, is that there's a very low voter turnout. There's a low population, actually. There's a population of about 77,000, and in the last 6 elections for the primary, really no more than 1,500 people have ever turned out for the primary, which we know primaries are always less than generals, typically anyway. But then also for the general, there's usually no more than 7,000 people that turn out. So that's a workable number. And the Democratic Party, I came to find out, I guess they're so used to just having the nominee that they don't even advertise in the city at all. So I am going to be advertising. So, I'm going to try to do as much really local work as I can, speaking with, really, I'm going to be knocking on people's doors and talking to them. So, and going to the bodegas and everywhere. I've already gotten to speak to some people so far in regards to like putting out signs and flyers and banners and things that I have. There's actually quite a bit of people that are going to help with that, which is nice. And so, basically, the 100 registered voters is the requirement for me to go through the primary. I don't have to be voted for in the primary running as an independent. So I just have to get those signatures. That's June 3rd is the primary, November 3rd is the general. So I have to have the votes, the signatures of 100 registered voters in, and then I'll basically go through the primary, and then it would be me against the Democratic nominee. So, obviously would want to try to shoot if 7,000 people are coming out, I want to try to shoot for, maybe 10,000 votes or something like that. But really what, you need is the majority of that. So it is smaller, even though we're going to try to shoot for as many as we possibly can, but we're doing it again, independent, and trying to do it. I guess it would be the closest thing to like a no budget campaign or a zero budget campaign as there is, but we're, meaning that we're intending to cover whatever it is with marketing materials and things like that, websites, what we may need ourselves, and, through anything maybe people want to volunteer to help us on, or if we do get donations, that's wonderful. Like, so that's kind of the where they're going. But it's very the area is door knockable. I can knock and speak to people and really start to get an idea of what they want to talk about. So right now we're basically working on the graphic design part. I need to incorporate myself so that I can set up a separate bank account, an EIN for political purposes, and to set up a bank account for that, and a PO box for that, and then put that on the marketing materials, and that those, they just need the last disclaimer, but they're pretty much ready to go. And been basically just working on initiatives, and also working on, if I do get the position, having the people in place to be able to really work on those initiatives ahead of time. So that's been going very well. And I have some help in regards to housing for all is a big initiative that I have for here. There's a lot of homeless persons, and beyond just homelessness, people that are really struggling just to be able to keep any kind of a roof over their head at any minute. And also a more advanced initiative is to be able to try to help people also own their own homes instead of just renting. So I have a lot of discussions and meetings that I've had with persons that I've known that work in the Affordable Housing Committee. They worked with Mayor Koch up in New York to implement a lot of his affordable housing initiatives. One of them specializes in helping people with addictions and helping people with any kind of mental illnesses that need to be rehomed, and things like that, which we do have a need for that here. And so that's very helpful because she's already worked on these. All three of them really have already worked on implementing that already. So just a lot of trying to get the people here and that will help with it too. But so you're trying to balance that, so you're not starting when you get the job to research all of this stuff, obviously, but at the same time do all of the campaign stuff. So it's just been just reading too, just endless reading of the New Jersey manual for the candidates, just to make sure you have every little thing. I called the election board because I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't know I bought my domain names, and I printed the budget and I did it out of my account. Was I supposed to have this account set up before I did that? Because they have a thing that in New Jersey, if you're even researching to be a candidate, you're actually a candidate. And and they were like, no, that's okay, you can and broke that all down for me. But so just reading the budget, speaking with some firms that one firm that is a forensic accounting firm that specializes in governmental, just to find out about really having some solid looks at these budgets here, because some of it's pretty intense. Our police has 66% of the budget roughly. So that is something, but I've been meeting with federal grant writers and things like that. Again, the women, people that I was speaking with, but especially one woman in particular that I'm working with in regards to affordable housing, that worked, like I said, up in New York, Mayor Koch and things like that. They happen to actually all have an affinity for Camden anyway, which is helpful because they kind of know it as a little side project they had an eye on, if you will, while they were always working in New York and things. So they were happy to hear of the initiatives that I have for here. And what I asked in regards to all the things that I mentioned for housing, and even some other things, because she's a federal grant writer also. So I asked about, funding for other things and things like that, especially being one of the poorest cities in the United States, that we should be qualified for a lot of help. She was very confident that for what I was trying to do there is funding for it. She, knows in particular the housing funding already is available, and basically said that for the most part, the things that I said that I wanted to get done for here they're not unfeasible in any way. It's just a matter of someone actually wanting to do those initiatives and then knowing the people to reach out to and actually doing it. That was nice. So, I want to be able to do the things that I say I'm going to do. And things like that. And one of the initiatives that I do have, which is part of the reason that I'm talking to you guys, is in regards to life extension. And that one I don't have as developed out yet as some of the other ones, because I know that a lot of people that are in the field of life extension and things like that would probably be best to speak with in regards to that kind of thing. Because if there is a real ability, as far as I know, I don't know of any politicians, I don't know if you guys know of any politicians that have put in any real life extension initiatives that much. I don't mean to say real, but I mean,
Well,
like we're talking about, I guess.
We've had our candidates, of course, advocate for them, including Zoltan Istvan and Charlie Cam.
Yeah.
And Indeed, one of the main priorities politically for transhumanists has been to lower the barriers to the speed of research innovation. So essentially, if there are regulatory obstacles in the way, process obstacles that can be identified, those should be lifted. Of course, transhumanists advocate for more research funding. So to the extent that this can be done from a local position, we would encourage it. Of course, a local position wouldn't have oversight over the FDA or other federal agencies, but one could be an advocate, a spokesperson for these kinds of reforms. Right to try is another area where we have been quite vocal. Even right now, we're organizing this effort to, quote, unclog the FDA to encourage them to approve vaccines more rapidly. And the more public figures we have who advocate for these kinds of liberalizations, the more likely they will be to occur. On a local level, for instance, the mayor of a city could emphasize the plight of people with some of these diseases who are in need of treatments, but who might not have available options for them among the FDA approved drugs and therapies. Because often politicians do serve as advocates for their constituents, and they help bring the plight of particular individuals to the attention of regulatory bodies or legislators at a higher level of government.
Yeah, and that's actually what I was curious about, because I know, I mean, of course, we know all about what Zoltan has done and what everyone that has run for any type of office has tried to do so far. One of the things that I'm learning about as I go through this, obviously, is what really like a mayor is actually capable of doing within their own city, and it's actually quite a bit. Even though it's not like governor and it's not president, and it's on a metro city level, it's actually quite a bit. And I was really curious, because I know a lot of things, so many things that have to do with our progress fall under transhumanism. I mean, it's literally about all of the progress and transcending past all of the stuff that is holding us back. Of course, everybody has their different affinity with it or how they think of it on an individual level. But really, it's about getting rid of all of these things that hold us back. And that's any kind of poverty holds us back, and not having access to medicine holds us back, all of these things. And then, of course, taking it into even more types of life extension levels and research and things besides just treating stuff that we already know how to take care of, like getting people food and water and a roof over their heads and healthcare and the medicines that we have already, and then moving past to new medicines, cryonics, that should be in the mainstream for everyone, and as much of an option as burying yourself or burning yourself, just things like that. But I guess I'm kind of curious too, just about how much exactly could be done in regards to that with that position, because if we can make a city one of the most known cities for life extension research, I'll do it. Like, please, like, just tell me how to do it. We have some universities here. We have Rutgers University, Rowan University. We have the local colleges. We have joint health initiatives and buildings and things like that they've been building here, which is really nice to see. So there may even be, and like you mentioned, we have to do it obviously within the realm of what the FDA allows and different things like that. But maybe initiatives to be able to do research that we are able to do within those universities and healthcare buildings and things that we have, professionals that we have here. it's interesting. It's like, we don't know how much can we do, you know, we have to like explore those different options because there's so many that falls under the umbrella of advancing human life and quality of life.
Yes,
So,
I think the thing is at any level, you know, before we've done with the presidential, at any level, I think you can work through the politics to try and move it into the limelight, that the higher up politicians and stuff realize that there are people that desire that and want to help, and you make it an issue and that help supports it. And I think in your position, you wait and see what kind of things come up and, you know, back the things that will support it and move it along and let people higher up know.
yeah.
I think it's great that you're concerned about the housing. And I realize that actually people working on your house right now is an example of how you support working on housing. So
I'm working on my house. I just switched out my construction clothes and brushed my hair a little so I didn't have spackle dust in my hair and all over me for you guys.
But yeah, at the lower levels, you know, the supporting it and to show the people higher up that there is a support for it, I think is important. And you know, in government at all the levels, and that's great that you want to go ahead and do that. I'm actually from your area. I'm from East Pennsylvania. I'm very familiar with Camden.
Hello.
My kids live in the Philly area actually.
Yeah.
I'm originally from Allentown, so I've spent all my summers in Jersey and stuff. So when I was a
Yeah.
kid, but yeah, it's a good area to work on the
Yeah.
housing. I think things that people realize is to totally increase the quality of life for people. I think the regular even work as much of the healthcare as you can improve to work toward the higher goals and let people know that while you're working on these goals that you have a higher sight, that
Yeah.
they know the type of things that you hope could be accomplished and to make them aware of your support for it.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's definitely well then as you know, definitely a lot of having to just help persons meet their basic needs here, like you're saying, which obviously if you can get those kind of things under control, people are more interested in the larger you know, picture of things that we have. One of my initiatives too, Gennady is familiar with the Venus Project, and I don't know if everybody else is familiar with them. My husband and I have been volunteers with them for like a decade now between each of us. Probably he was longer than I before I got there, but is to build their Center for Resource Management. And the Center for Resource Management that they propose is going to be bringing in a lot of new things. So a lot of new sciences, new technologies, things like that. I have proposals simultaneous with bringing in these future technologies that we're trying to think of doing, like vertical farming. As you know, Camden's a food desert. So providing people with fresh vegetables, things like that, and then also being able to sell it into local areas for, you know, revenue and things like that. There's a lot of discussions about basically managing the resources of everybody here and then also working on futuristic technologies. And I think that since it would be a sort of university style setup for the most part, that may be another area in the biological sciences where we may be able to bring in as much of the more advanced research that we can do, that we are allowed to do, I should say, you know, with federal guidelines and things too.
Do you have links and stuff you could tell us about so the people watching this and listening could go and find out more about that?
Sure. It won't be about what I'm discussing now, but they will be able to see what the Venus Project is proposing. So what we would be doing would not be there. They have a proposal for a first city and they have a proposal for a Center for Resource Management. So when you go to it, you'll see their Center for Resource Management there. And the drawings that you see may be more for a different area than if we build the Center for Resource Management here, because some of them have a lot more land involved than it would be here. So here we would probably be doing a little bit different than the pictures, basically. But like I said, more of like a university style type proposal where everybody's there working on how to meet the needs of the people in the city. You know, housing is a big one, being able to have everybody be fed, housed, having clean water, making sure persons can get education and things like that. And then working on new technologies that would be coming in, like I said, like vertical farming, maybe 2 new technologies that haven't been developed yet, like they have, and things like that, to be able to do multiple things to provide a better quality of life to everybody in the city, show these new technologies, also, as an example to the world. So yeah, so that may be another, area. I know as far as it goes with life extension, that's probably my longest standing thing that I have cared about. Gennady is one of the only other people that I know that has been cared about it since they were 5. So I was like, brother, I didn't know anybody else was like that. Anything that I can do, and anybody that we know, if I do get this position, and obviously even in the campaigning, I'll be talking about it, and hopefully that would get some awareness and everything too. But that knows, like, if we do get it, like, let's put in as much as we possibly can. So, if there's questions people can think of for me to ask grant writers, about funding for a certain initiative, or they've kind of gone down maybe this path to try to speak to other, mayors or politicians before, and maybe they weren't receptive, I'm receptive. So, anything like that for anybody that's watching that's interested. I'm very, very interested in anything that we can do, and as far as we can go. I mean, I would love for this city to go from being, one of the most financially not having help all along these times, and disadvantaged in certain ways because of that, to being one of the healthiest cities, that there is. So, anything anyone is interested in with that, I am also.
Great.
I have a question. What first got you interested in doing this, and what characteristics do you think you bring to this that'll really make you stand out?
I was asked by our friend that lives here to do this. I think just after years of being here and being around us and just talking about different things, and he actually asked me to do it. And I'm an activist. I have done some political work. I have worked with writing up certain reforms. Actually, even I think the immigration reform that I worked on with an immigration attorney and one of the heads of Occupy Portland, we put that together. I think you guys voted that in actually as one of your immigration reforms recently. I have another homelessness proposal, reform proposal that we put out for another party that I had consulted with for a while. And they put that forth as their homelessness reform proposal. That was actually a federal proposal, though, in regards to what states could do on their own to remedy the problem and still save, depending on state, it was between tens and hundreds of millions annually, which would solve the problem and save them a lot of money. So we had put that out, and also that would also help be able to alleviate some of the funding that the $5.82 billion homelessness grant could get appropriated to work on another issue. So things like that, but I haven't been a candidate before. Just an activist working on, trying to have a better world for all people. And I have a unique background. I don't know that particularly makes me, any different than anyone else, but I don't have an issue with doing things like knocking on doors and speaking to people about the campaign. And I have no problems with, running whatever the outcome is, if I get it or I don't get it. I just want to, it's very hard to live here and see everything that's happening and know that a mayor can make their city better. So especially too, to just see that the cycle of people that have been here, there has been a lot of improvement in some ways, but there's a lot more that needs to be done. And it's a matter of, in cases like this, life or death. Because if you're not taking care of people, and they don't have homes and they don't have foods and they don't have things like this all over, while you have the whole city boarded up of all these houses, and empty houses and people with no houses all over, there are things that definitely can be done. So, I figure my characteristic is, that's pretty much what I've cared about my whole life is making a better world, regardless, for the most part, of all the things I got into. Was health initiatives or volunteering or activism. And I think that I know enough people. You can't expect one person to know everything at all, but I think that I know enough persons that are very qualified in each of their unique fields to be able to bring them in to help really make a difference here. And they're willing to work with me if I get the job. So yeah.
Great.
I was going to also ask what your thoughts were on maybe helping with the employment in the city, and maybe now everybody knows I'm an environmentalist, so I have to ask about the environmental issues.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in Camden many times and through there, and I know some of the issues with there.
Yeah.
And some of the employment issues is what relates back to the houses being boarded up and stuff also.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on some of that? Or
Well, I have a lot of thoughts on that, actually. Yeah, there's kind of a comprehensive plan that I'm trying to work out, and it's involving some conversations with the accountants and also with housing people and the grant writers that I was speaking about. But one of the things here is that there are a lot of houses that are boarded up. And for the most part, a lot of times what happens when these houses are city-owned houses is that they're sold at an auction like once a year for like $500 to an investor. Yeah, I can renovate it and such. And that's that. And they get their $500 and then they get the taxes, that come from that going forward. But I do not feel like that's the best approach for the cities. A lot of the revenue here is state aid. There isn't a whole lot of of revenue. There's obviously tax revenue and stuff like that. But I am looking more so, instead of selling those off for $500, to have those houses renovated and to either sell them then at the amount that it is starting to be called for here, because now persons are starting to notice Camden. They actually just built a Hilton here. And there is people that are starting to come over, buying places and staying in places from Philly, because it's such a close proximity, and the difference in the housing price is a lot cheaper here. So things like that are starting to come about. But what we wanted to do is kind of do maybe a comprehensive program that may go off into a couple of different areas. But if we were to keep the houses and have them renovated, we would be able to either sell them for a lot more than $500 or keep them on the books for rent, which there already are some rentals on the books, but really not nearly enough. There's so many houses here, and now with the interest coming in, it's really quite fiscally irresponsible to get rid of these houses for $500. If we are able to implement this, one of the other things that we would look to do would also be to pick up some other houses for the city that are for sale, instead of having them go to investors. Not that there's anything wrong with investors, but a thing that we want to make sure we avoid here is gentrification of the city, where people have been staying here for their whole entire lives, generation after generation, and then they're just going to get pushed out. I would more so rather have programs in place where we can teach citizens about home investment and home ownership and things like that, and work out programs where we're having it more so be that the citizens of the city are becoming the investors of the city, instead of just taking everything away from them and pushing them out, like typically happens when cities start to get interest. So one of the other things that we were thinking in regards to that would be if we were able to do that. I was actually having a conversation with a gentleman that works in regards to recidivism, and persons, like, especially they work in between 18 and 24 years of age, but they work with many age groups, about having somewhere that people can go and do things when they get out of jail, so that they aren't stuck back in the same situation. And then beyond that, just them, for the homeless and other persons that are not employed, or perhaps employed in something that is dangerous or something like that, that they can be taught different things that have to go on with the house, sheetrocking, painting, and doing these different things, ones that are maybe non-licensed professions that could be taught to persons quickly. And then also we're having the citizens be employed working on building up the city and making the city prepared and beautiful again. And that could be something that would be good opportunities for them, because it pays well. It would be quick for them to learn if they want to go further. We have actually some grants, just $1 million grant that came in for persons between 18 and 24 that want to go to vocational school of electrician or plumbing or car mechanics. That will be paid for all of them. So things like that, and that would also, like I said, a combination of having how people be involved with their city, learn how to work on it, learn how to beautify it, have this skill that's always, a very necessary skill for people, and then also be able to put in some programs where they can even buy the houses themselves.
Yeah, I do think that's a great idea to try to get the people over there from Philly. I have seen people moving from Philly down to Lancaster now, Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Oh,
And that's like a 45-minute drive if you rush it.
yeah.
Matter of fact, Lady Gaga was living down there with her fiance in Lancaster. But it's, it would be good to get some of those people to buy real estate over in Camden and help the city, help with income. But the displacement of the people that have been there, that always is the issue with that. I've seen that in cities myself. Coming from Allentown, I remember they redid the downtown, and then that moved the people out that lived downtown, and then they built low-income housing for them down in a section that people really didn't want to live. But they did build another development, and it's the difficultness of how you try to balance to get the income in, and also to be fair to the people that are from there,
Yes.
without, like you said, displacing them. It's a difficult situation and a different balance. And I think the idea that a lot of the cities have before with selling the places for $500 is you have a property that's been sitting and not being used, and his taxes aren't being paid on it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they're happy to have somebody in building a project, paying taxes.
Yeah.
But you kind of have to evaluate if in the long term that is good. That might be a Band-Aid, but not a long-term fix in the city. So I like your ideas of it. What you were saying kind of reminds me of the old story about, teaching a person to fish so they can fish repeatedly.
Yes. Yeah, it would be something that would be able to carry over multiple ways that way if we are able to do it. Like you said, there's a lot of people that could be become employed that way, and then also be able to become educated in how to buy houses themselves, and make those paths easy for them. Then that way I think would be a good way to keep from that, because that's already happening. The people from Philly and stuff are already starting to come a little bit, and other investors from New York and places are starting to come a little bit. So it's kind of a very crucial time actually to see what is going to happen with that. I have no idea of my competitor, or whatever you would call it, his approach to any of these things, because there's no advertising from them in regards to this. So I have no idea if they have similar plans, or if they just intend to, as you said, shove them all in one particular area, or something like that. So I can't say, but there hasn't been a hotel here in like 50 years, and the Hiltons just built one. So if the Hiltons know about it, it's probably something that's very up and coming. Yeah, I think it's a very crucial time right now to really get in and make sure that everybody that's just been here generation after generation starts to get improved quality of life and some kind of just help, for them to be involved with their city.
The thing is, if you can entice some buildings like companies and hotels like the Hilton,
Mhm.
that'll also help with the jobs and the revenue for people also.
Yeah,
For both you guys, Camden is right across the river from Philadelphia.
yeah.
It's, you can,
Six
it's a hop,
minutes.
skip, and a jump. And
6 minutes.
sometimes the joke is that it's actually a suburb of Philly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It is very similar. The housing is all very similar because they were both, really established originally very close to each other, Philadelphia and Camden. There's a lot of history here, just like Philadelphia. So, well, not as much, Philadelphia has a whole lot more of, obviously, in regards to political, origins and things like that there, but they both kind of have been around. Some really beautiful buildings here. And there's been a lot of stuff going on. As I said, these joint health services buildings being built amongst the universities. There's a beautiful science and technology high school, really one of the biggest ones I've ever seen, being built right over in Parkside. There's a lot of STEM stuff, different scientific advancements going on. So that's all beautiful to see.
Thank you for that discussion. Now, one of the obstacles that often gets in the way of housing affordability would be zoning laws that restrict new construction. And it seems in Camden, you have a situation where there are a lot of older houses that can be renovated. That does
Yes.
sometimes take a lot of work, though, and there may be developers who may be interested in building newer houses, and that could also take the pressure off of the housing supply and keep housing more affordable, just because there are more options for people and they don't have to bid the price up of the existing housing stock. So do you think it might be a realistic possibility to relax some of the zoning restrictions and allow more residential construction, including through innovative methods? If we can get some homes 3D printed, for instance, that could both help with affordability and it could attract a lot of attention from the standpoint of interest in new technologies, interest in transhumanism.
Yeah, and the 3D printing and things like you're talking about may be something that might also get developed out of the Center for Resource Management, out of the new technologies side of it, because that's great. I mean, they have some 3D printing going on right now. They're just like using local dirt, it's just like printing the whole houses out of it, which is like it's amazing some of this stuff that's starting to come out around the world in regard to it. Yeah, I mean, I think that you do have definitely have some say in working with people in order to put in some new things. There are a lot of empty lots still, but there are a lot of houses that are already in existence, and we've been working here working on renovating houses here for some years now that we've been here. A lot of these homes, they can be fixed up, quite, I don't want to say easily, but it's just that we're in the field. So I know that, a lot of times some of these estimates from contractors and different things like that are very inflated, on things, and they can be done. Not that you're trying to do anything of any subpar quality or anything like that, but just that they can be done a lot less even than sometimes, people would propose. And I think in regards to a lot of these things, I've been having meetings with, because housing is a really big focus, and it does seem that you will be able to do these initiatives. They've really already been done. It's not something new that, like, I'm trying to propose or anything. People have done all of these well, some of the things I'm trying to propose are new, but they've already been done before, by previous mayors, or are being done, now. I've been taking a look at some other mayors, like the mayor of Oakland. Oakland has as another area that has had a lot of needs a lot of help with their issues. And the new mayor there, she's really, I mean, I was looking at all her town halls and all of her things that she's working on, and a lot of them are the stuff that I want to do, So she is doing things there. Stockton too, even their new mayor, they're working on, universal healthcare for their individual cities. And also they're even actually involved with some guaranteed basic income for their own cities, in order like that, so that no one's in the poverty level anymore, and just things like that are, they're already going on by other mayors.
I was gonna say, I thought zoning was, I'm glad that was brought up, because thinking in my head about Camden, I think there's a lot of riverfront. And I think there's a lot of places that I think businesses are kind of defunct on the riverfront, if my memory serves me right.
When's the
And
last time you were by it?
I
Roughly.
guess last time I was there was a year and a half ago, and did things in the city.
Yeah, so they have some things going on the waterfront. I guess you saw, like, with the aquarium is there, the 76ers have a training center there. They have now built the Victors there, with another luxury apartment building there, and some other office buildings that they've built there. But I would say that, yeah, there is still space.
Well, what I was going to say, the rezoning of that could do a couple things. I mean, you could build some high-end housing for people that want to move in from Philly, or
Mhm.
maybe some conference centers and stuff that would increase jobs.
Yeah, I think that's
Because
kind of what's going on now. So it would be a continuation.
And once you increase the level, the quality of life that people live in there, then we can work towards more, and work towards the longevity issues
Yes.
once the other things are already provided, the basic income idea, and that they have housing
Yes,
and they have
because those
jobs.
are longevity issues.
Right, exactly. Then we can work
Housing
towards
is a
some more
longevity
advancements.
issue. Food is a longevity issue. Clean water. Look at Flint. Look what happened to Flint. You know what I mean, with their water. I've been in meetings about the water here. It's so huge to have clean water. We're 70% water. Like, we are a water system. So I've been having some meetings about that here. There's a 6-year proposed new budget in regards to the water treatment systems here. My cousin works with putting in water systems all along the West Coast. So I'm trying to get in touch with who I can, just to make sure that, everything on it is proper. There's not going to be skimping out on something that's going to cause $160 million worth of damage later, because you skipped out on this little additive that was $100 a day. Like, what happened in Flint, and then their pipes got eaten, and then, you have this mess over not putting an additive in, stuff like that. And just to make sure, to see how far we can go with that, to make sure we have quality water. That's a huge longevity factor. So things like that. But yeah, those, they all are. And then, like you said, once you get those basic longevity needs met, then try to move into more advanced ones.
of course, if you encourage research institutions, they may work on all of these facets simultaneously.
Yeah, I would love to. That's what I'm like, as you're going through the process, it's finding out like what really can you do? Like, and I did have some encouraging talks, like I said, with some of these, and these are federal grant writers that have been federal grant writers for their whole lives, or been in affordable housing for 30 years, 40 years, and done different things. And they really are basically of the mindset that whatever a mayor wants to do for the city, a mayor can have a large majority of it done for the city. And that what they've seen in their time is that the mayors that want to do stuff get things done. Like, and they've worked with those mayors before, and that if they have the position and the desire that they can get these things done, the money is there. There are grants all over the place, and things like that. But then, if they don't have the desire to get these things done, then they won't, or maybe it isn't even, it's a combination, basically of not having desire, or maybe not knowing who to ask or something like that. But that one's a tough stretch, because when you're mayor, you have access to so many people that are specialized in so many ways that you could be like, come help, and they could help. So that was at least encouraging, and that the things I was proposing are not so far out that a large majority of them have been done already. Not all of them. The Center for Resource Management has not been built. We have not fixed aging and death yet, although I sure do hope that's all very soon. But for the most part, in regard to housing, and water and food, and people have jobs and stuff like that, that can be done. People are doing it, so that's very encouraging.
It's interesting also, I just found this page on the Rutgers University website that advertises the SENS Research Foundation
Oh my goodness.
Medicine Fellowship. So they have some ties already.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yes, if you can get in contact with them, particularly, this is the Division of Student Affairs, so they knew about this.
Oh my God.
You can help create a pipeline of students to apply for these SENS research fellowships and find out about research opportunities, and maybe even bring them to Rutgers, because SENS often farms out research projects to other institutions. SENS itself is not that large of a foundation, so they can't always directly partake in every research project. But if there are students or professors, even labs at Rutgers, who are interested in picking up some of the pieces, this could be a great initiative to pursue.
So wonderful. Yeah, and we might be able to expand on it too, even, even the amount that's offered, who knows? That's wonderful. So it's already there a little bit, and that's actually rare, because as I guess we all know, there's still not a whole lot of regenerative medicine stuff offered at universities and things like that. One thing, Rutgers does seem to be a little developed in their medicines area. They have law departments and different departments. I can't really speak on how developed that is, but I have seen, I didn't see this though, but I have seen, there's some really joint, service, health alliance things going on, and they seem to work with Rowan also, Rowan University, and then there's Cooper Medical, is the hospital really that's here, but they have a teaching university. It seems to be very correlated with Rutgers. Like they work together a lot. So that's very interesting. Oh my God, that's great.
Yes, and I think this could help you too in your campaign if you have a lot of support from the academic constituency. They're also more likely to vote, I think, than the general population. So if you can build these bridges with them and kind of work into your platform some additional opportunities for essentially broadening their network. That I think will help. But yes,
Yeah, thank you. That's so great.
of course, the pandemic makes things a bit more difficult in terms
Yes.
of actual lab-based research, but there is still a lot of theoretical study that can be done, and especially with students, bringing them in, getting them acquainted with the work that has already been performed.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Oh my God, that's exciting. Yeah, well, it looks like for some part they're already a little bit connected with Rutgers. So, that's wonderful. Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah,
I,
there's different they have, also different reporters and things like that. There's something called Tap Into Camden. Well, Tap Into is like a, a website for a lot of places. They have Tap Into Camden, and their editor there seems to be really interested in bringing about a better quality of life here. So I'm gonna see if I can and talk to him too.
Great.
I went to my first city council meeting Tuesday. It's Tuesday.
I was just going to go back to the infrastructure thing before. I do know that there's a new grant program out there that has, I think, $500 million a year they're giving away, which is called BRIC, and it's an offshoot of originally be from flood relief money originally.
Oh,
But that's something you might want to go look into. They're working with building codes and all kinds of projects. But it's another funding source that once you are the mayor, you can probably tap into, come up with a
yeah.
project for your rebuilding that they might be able to help you fund.
We do have flooding issues here. Sometimes you can't even get in and out. There's some
Well,
proposals.
it's not just flooding anymore. It's an offshoot of what was the flood relief, but it's called BRIC.
Oh,
And I know in Pennsylvania, we're using it for some of the, already for some of the building codes and for different things, but it's new. So it's something to get in on, and it's
Rick.
lots of other projects for infrastructure you can use it for. So it's not just flooding anymore, but that's what it kind of was an offshoot of.
I'll write it down. I'll ask. Probably maybe the grant writers that I work with know of it or don't know of it, because I know they're starting to look into all that. Been going kind of one by one down the different initiatives that.
It's just BRIC, I believe, is how it's abbreviated.
Okay.
It's
Thank
kind of
you.
they made sure they picked the word, so for infrastructure it said brick. So
Yeah.
it's
Oh
kinda
yeah. That makes sense now. That's cute. Yeah. Oh. All right. Yeah. Those are great. Thank you for that. Those are both good tips. Yeah.
So now I wanted to know if David has any questions at this stage.
Yeah, thanks. I've very much enjoyed the conversation, and John, of course, seems to have the inside track since it's just across the water.
Yeah.
I was curious, though. We've had a great discussion today. What kind of things do you see the Transhumanist Party helping you with if there was an endorsement?
I was most looking for the help with the life extension initiatives, really. Again, like I said, I think that anything improving the quality of life of anyone is transcending, feeding people and housing people. I that all falls under the category of transhumanism to me individually. But more so, I have people that can, not that I would turn down any help from anybody that wants to help with that kind of stuff too, please, that would be wonderful. But what I had more so imagined it would be for some of the more advanced life extension initiatives, sort of like actually what Gennady just posted here about this link. If we can be really developing stuff within the healthcare here to try to bring everybody to literally the top quality of life that we possibly could, which would be by expanding these life extension research and initiatives. So we are able to do it with maybe our health hospital here, our health centers, our universities, and maybe really amplify, sort of like here they have this fellowship that Gennady put, but maybe it could be expanded to be even much more than just the fellowship. Again, since this is my first run for mayor ever, finding out the different things. So when you, if you're looking at a certain region, you have to look at like the priority obviously is like people are going to die on the street if they don't like, and they're going to die if they don't get food and things like that. And then as you know, we were discussing of more advanced types of life extension like this. I mean, really working on keeping ourselves at an equilibrium where we do not inflame on ourselves till we die of it anymore, which is basically what happens to everybody in some way. So, you know, just things like that, cryonics initiatives, getting that out mainstream so that that's accepted as, you know, as an acceptable end of life thing. More, it should be more acceptable than burning yourself or letting, you know, burying yourself in the ground and things like that. Just I would like to go as far as actually possible with that position to bring life extension initiatives into Camden. Like, so as far as anyone can figure out, yes, oh, legally you can do this and legally you can do this, and what those actual avenues are with that role, I'm interested in it.
Mhm. Yes, and
Yeah.
we could definitely help you with research. We could help you with connecting you to a network of researchers as well as subject matter experts in areas like cryonics, and definitely doing a study of the local ordinances and seeing whether they pose any obstacle to cryopreservation is something that can be done fairly readily. If you get elected, we can create a working group on this, and some of the members can be US Transhumanist Party officers and volunteers, and we can have people from your team, your staff as well involved, and essentially we can do a deep dive into any provisions of law that we identify as needing to be changed. And really, you would have a lot of power as mayor to affect local ordinances, both in terms of infrastructure, zoning, housing, as well as how welcoming the area is to research or patient choice or practices like cryonics.
Yeah, and also I think too, one thing that's kind of nice about it too is that it is a workable population number. Everything is a workable population number, but there's a big difference between 77,000 people roughly, and 6 minutes away in Philadelphia, you got like 2.7 million, you know, or to solve the issues and then like, wow, okay, there's really stuff getting done instead of people just stealing our money. I don't know what people did before, but you know, there's really stuff getting done, you know, and then be more open to those larger issues that they may be initiatives that haven't even really been done in the world before. Who knows? You know what I mean? Because we may be able to go, well, like you said, within the realm of what we can do, but it could be a very far, I think, that we would go with that. And that was what I would really be interested in. It's just help to get those done. You know, help to get that all done. What can we do? And let's do it. Whatever we can do, let's do it. You know, and just finding out all the different things in regards to that. And I think you guys probably would, your network is going to know best about that, because there's not that many else working on that, you know, politically.
Yes,
really
indeed.
not.
David, any more questions for Jennifer?
No, thank you. This has been a quite enlightening discussion. Very pleased to meet you.
No, pleased to meet you too,
I show
David.
my real face.
That's okay. I can see your real face. Don't worry. It's right there in the picture.
Okay.
So I have a few questions that are more along the lines of our procedural formalities. Per our Constitution, we have candidate eligibility criteria, and I'm just going to run through them. Presumably, you know what the minimum qualifications are for Mayor of Camden, New Jersey, and you don't look like you're 12 years old, so you probably satisfy those qualifications.
Yeah.
And
the age requirement, yeah.
yes, I don't think any of the criteria about lack of criminal record are an issue here.
Nope.
So we'll go to number 7. This is Article 7 of our Constitution, Section 1. And the first question that we need to ask is, would you agree to participate in any process designated by the officers of the U.S. Transhumanist Party for the purpose of determining whether or not you would be endorsed as a candidate, and to respect the outcome of that process? So essentially, we would hold a vote of the members, and however the members vote, that will be the decision. Would you agree to that in terms of the USTP endorsement?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, great. So that's easy. Then we will move on to Criterion 8. Would you agree to work collaboratively with the United States Transhumanist Party during the campaign season, and not to disparage the United States Transhumanist Party, as well as not to work contrary to the interests and goals of the United States Transhumanist Party during that time?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. And this has not been an issue in the past, so 9 is also satisfied. And then if you were endorsed, would you commit to running as a candidate endorsed by the U.S. Transhumanist Party until the conclusion of the election in which you seek to be a candidate?
Yeah, I was just thinking, I guess what the best way to do about that would be just to have an area on the website, right?
Well,
Stating the endorsement with a
Mhm.
link to you guys.
yes, I think that would be good, and that would help draw people's attention to it. And really, we already covered Criterion 16, which is relevant to this, and I think you'll be doing both, in that you would specifically and openly express support for transhumanism and or life extension, and also specifically and openly reference the endorsement by the United States Transhumanist Party.
Yeah, definitely. I think it probably would be both, because like I said, I was planning just to place it on the website if I get it. And also I think Gennady, you saw some of the process, like that's going to be the informative flyers that I pass around. It's almost done, but I have life extension initiatives on there, and it'll also be on my website too, that I'm looking to have those. So I think that should cover probably both.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. So the other question I will ask you, again, I think I know the answer to this, but this is criterion number 14. Do you agree with the core ideals of the United States Transhumanist Party as expressed in Article 1, Section 1 of our Constitution? And I'll post them right here as well.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
Great. And
Yeah.
we've already discussed some of your candidate priorities, so I think there would be sufficient alignment with the USTP platform there that you would meet that criterion. So I think the next step would be for you to write up a description for us to put on our website as part of the exposure period, essentially, when we announce that there will be a forthcoming vote to endorse you.
Okay.
Give people some information about your candidacy, and when that's posted, we'll make it possible for them to vote on it.
Okay.
And we'll have a description from you about essentially what you told us here in this interview, what some of your policy priorities are, what you hope to achieve, where you think the alignment with the U.S. Transhumanist Party platform is for these ideas. And we might have, in addition to that, some analysis of our own, just cross-referencing some of your statements with our platform. That way, people will know that we have essentially had this exchange, and we have thoroughly studied the issues that you're running on and made the decision to put you forward as a candidate. So if you send us a write-up, it doesn't have to be particularly long?
Yeah, so the write-up you want mainly to be about the platform proposals in general, or do you want it more so to be focused around the transhumanist, the life extension part, or kind of just a write-up of everything we talked that's going to be an initiative?
Right, a write-up of everything would be good because we
Okay.
want members to know all the aspects of what you are advocating, and that way they have more
They're
information.
they're all transcending the limitations that we have in Camden, so they kind of all fall under the category. But yeah, okay, we can get that.
The primary election is in June, and the general election, I assume, is in November.
Yeah.
Really, we have some time, and your major deadline will be that June deadline for the petition
Signatures.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so essentially, if you get the 100 signatures, you're guaranteed to be on the ballot in November.
Yes. And and that's already 100 votes towards the 7,000 or something. Really, if you look at it, you just need to have more than whatever that is. So I don't know how those people will vote that have been voting kind of the same way because they had no choice. They may be
Right.
committed to the Democratic Party, or they might not.
Right. Or they may, in the past, just have thought that this was an election that could be ignored because the outcome was preordained, and
Yeah.
now no longer would be, so they would pay more attention to this race.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. It's I had someone speak to me that's well, she's a friend of mine, but she has done journalism and politics, and she's actually very interested in the story because it's kind of a little bit unique in some ways. Although I'm finding more and more with local office, even with something like mayor, which really actually has a lot of ability to make a lot of change. There's a lot of stuff, even sometimes even in Congress and things where people are running, year after year, and there's no opponent. And it's actually more common than I had any idea of, which is, maybe we all just need to become the politicians, obviously.
Oh, yes. Well, there are a lot of opportunities for people who are motivated and willing to go through the effort and enact the changes that they promised to enact. I
Yeah.
know even in the county I live in Nevada, Douglas County, that has been dominated by Republicans essentially for decades. And
Yeah.
in many cases, for county commissioner, the Republican primary is what determines who will appear on the general election ballot. And
Yes.
there's no non-Republican candidate. And actually, for one of the 3 county commissioner seats that was open for election in 2020, there was a libertarian challenger who ran. And I was quite pleased to see that he actually tried.
Yeah.
He didn't win. He got maybe 25% of the vote, but still, it was a good effort on his part. And I hope to see more people trying to run for minor political parties or as independents.
Yeah. I think it really could, affect a lot of change. But I think some people are so used to just the default of it, and they just think, and of course too, it's not for everyone getting into politics. I mean, I'm a pretty much lifelong activist for the most part, so it's different. It's a very different world, but also it isn't. It's very different in all of the structures of everything. But also, if you're kind of transitioning into politics after activism, at least that you're trying to bring about a higher quality of life for people, at least. So, but it is interesting. I mean, it's definitely not for everyone, but it can really bring about a lot of real change.
Yes.
And then that's, instead of always being like, why aren't the politicians doing what we want them to do? Just try. They'll either vote for you or they won't vote for you.
Yes. And I think it is important to be in politics for the right reasons. And I think sometimes people who become established politicians, they become dependent on the status quo. They become dependent on the system because they require certain special interests to fund their re-election campaign, for example, and they can't
Yeah.
imagine themselves doing something else. One of our advantages as transhumanists is that we do have so many different talents and interests, and hopefully we always have something to fall back on if a particular political project doesn't succeed. And so we can be in it for the right motive, and we
Yeah.
can say that we're going to stand on our own principles. We're not just going to do what the people with money or the people currently in power want us to do.
Yeah, this is a little thing, really, but it was just something that was interesting to me. I took a very bad camera shot of it and shot it over just because I was in the middle of something. But, one of the forms that I have to sign, and, I'm sure this is very common, but one of the forms I have to sign is an oath to allegiance to the United States Constitution, allegiance to the New Jersey Constitution. I have, all under "so help me God" at the end of this pledge, by the way. And, I just really find it interesting. Like, there's nothing in there about pledging to take care of the people that you're elected to represent at all. Zero. And I'm like, I don't know, just these little things that just, jump out at me sometimes. But I'm like, don't you have any responsibility to the people that, there's nothing of it in there. This is strange, but I'm sure that's probably common on these oaths.
Well, these oaths largely have become procedural formalities, but people can interpret them as they see fit in many respects. Really, I think in many cases, a person's own conscience is what will bind them more so than any
Paper
external,
proclamation.
right, any declaration or external requirement. Because if there's just a formal requirement, people can find ways to navigate around it. And I've seen it so often in politics, the so-called revolving door phenomenon. And sure, bribery is illegal, even giving small gifts to politicians is illegal. But what if a politician who doesn't get paid very much, and in many states, legislators, for instance, get paid nominal amounts, like $8,000 for participating in a 120-day legislative session? Well, you can't live off of that.
Yeah.
And they think, well, if I vote in favor of this particular industry, maybe they'll hire me after I term out of office. That kind of thing is perfectly legal. And the question is one going to allow oneself to be influenced by that, or is one guided by a higher standard and capable of recognizing that for what it is? And I see so many former politicians who have become lobbyists after they term
There's
out
a
of
big door.
Yes.
Revolving all around. And, once you know those areas, then you know it for the other area. So like if you're a politician, you kind of were already in office, and then you know what you can lobby for because you kind of know from being in there, I guess. I can see how people might go there after that job. But yeah,
And it's
I mean,
interesting too. I once found myself in a meeting of lobbyists, and I was the only non-lobbyist there.
oh boy.
Yeah, don't ask how I came to be in this situation, but I was in a fancy restaurant, which was known as a lobbying hub in Carson City, Nevada. It had since burned down because of a fire, which is kind of sad, but at that time it was a very active hub for lobbyists during the legislative session. And this was toward the end of the session. And I found myself essentially standing against the wall, observing how the lobbyists gave one another what they called the piggy awards. They were kind of even mocking the popular perception of lobbyists. And some of the awards were for various techniques that the lobbyists were known to use, but there was essentially an award given to one of the lobbyists with whom I'm somewhat acquainted, and that award was essentially for having the luxury to advocate for one's own principles, because that was seen as being so rare. But this woman was fairly established in Nevada politics. She had been doing it for a long time. She came from a family with money, and she didn't actually have to worry about having a steady stream of clients. She could work on the initiatives that she personally believed in. And it was so rare that she got this special award from the
Wow.
other lobbyists for being that kind of lobbyist.
Yeah, sure. If you were trying to use lobbying uh to get things through to better the quality of life of people, then that's a way to go about it. I mean, yeah, that's interesting.
Yes, indeed. But it got me thinking that really a lot of lobbyists aren't free, at least they don't think that they're free to decide what issues they work on. A lot of politicians don't think they're free to decide what issues they work on. They all feel constrained by the system in some way. They all
Yeah.
feel like if they don't toe the line, their lives might be difficult later on. And I think what is incredibly liberating to a person is not to have to feel that way, not to have to believe that one is beholden to a special interest.
Yeah.
So if
Uh,
you are in a position to act independently, act according to your principles, you can definitely achieve a lot of change.
Yeah, that's another reason I was interested in running independent. I'm not sure. It doesn't seem like the Republican Party has a foothold here really yet, because there's no nominees from them. And just in regards to, it's nothing even against the Democratic Party necessarily. It's just that I the past mayors, there's been, a lot of stuff that isn't necessarily in the best interest of the people. So I thought maybe just, and I know if you go with Democratic Party or someone like that, if they accept you even, that there's more maybe financial help, obviously, and things like that. But I just thought maybe just going fully independent here would just be kind of like a new breath of air for everybody here, since it hasn't really ever happened. So and that way, like I said, it's basically like a zero budget campaign. Like we're like, okay, well, let's see if we know anyone to volunteer for this, and okay, mark down the volunteering hours, like whatever, and then or like, oh, okay, how much is this? Okay, let's just go pay it, like, whatever it is. Flyers we have to print out or signs or something like that. But I still think that's a better shot, and I think that the people here probably would appreciate that.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I definitely think running independent is the best choice. Again, an entity like the Democratic Party, sure, it could offer financial support, but that comes with strings attached. You
Yeah,
have to
man.
toe their party line, which is fairly restrictive. I know some people who have tried that route, and it changed them. It changed what they were able to do, and not necessarily in ways that would be beneficial. So yes,
Yeah.
I think this is promising. Thank you for sharing with us the progress of your campaign thus far. It looks like you're coming along quite quickly. You need 100 signatures by June. I think you should probably be able to have petitioners on the ground.
I hope so. Thank you. One interesting thing I noticed about the petitions, because obviously it's new, like you have to have it all notarized by whoever the petitioner is. and things like that. And so it was just very interesting, these little things that I'm like, oh, you just don't know, you just don't know that. And I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah, I may very well be the one that's doing it myself. A big part of one of my initiatives that we didn't discuss too is just accessibility to me. I want everybody that is a citizen here to know that they can speak to me. Obviously it has to be scheduled. I have to have a scheduler, but because you can't just walk in all the time because there's other events and stuff. But it doesn't really matter to me if it's the Hiltons themselves or somebody that is homeless on the street that wants to come talk to their mayor about problems. So that's a big part of accessibility is one of my initiatives too, because I know that there's been a lot of complaints just of persons not being able to reach their government, not having any kind of accessibility, not any kind of transparency, about anything. I went to go look at the budget and it wasn't even scanned in correctly. Like, it was illegible. I had to have it printed out. I had to print out 166 pages of it because it was scanned in like all upside down and like, whatever. And, I have people that are like, oh no, they do that stuff on purpose. Like, and I'm like,
Wow, that should be easy to fix. And
I'm like,
make it part of your campaign objectives to fix it. I think you will attract a lot of sympathy from many parts of the constituency.
yeah, I sent it to the accountant and she's like, oh, wow. So you can't even just look at it and read it, huh? And I was like, yeah, no. I was like, I would like to keep people that can scan the budget in, but like, I would like to hire people that if their job is to scan the budget in, that they could scan the budget in. Like, I see a problem already. Like, but, it's, yeah, transparency.
Yes, indeed. So one final question for you, and this pertains to the pandemic, and how do you think that will affect the ease of reaching out to people, especially getting petition signatures, and your own safety, of course?
There's a lot of things about the pandemic that are just, yeah. I was wondering all about that. Like, just I guess, wear a mask, knocking on doors. We were wondering about gathering people together if we're gonna have any kind of, lectures or anything like that. I don't even know if we can, and even after getting the job, it's a little bit like, a lot of things are very shut down here. They're not having people come in, and that's fine. A lot of these things can largely be done remotely instead of gathering everybody together. They don't have to come necessarily into an office building. It depends what the situation is. But I think I would maybe just was still gonna door knock. I was still gonna just knock on people's doors and speak to them, with a mask, and that should be sufficient to do anything. I guess if they feel uncomfortable opening the door, it would be that. But and then the other thing too is just getting treatment out to everybody. But as far as I heard, I think that Rutgers has also been developing their own vaccine here.
Yes, that could be a main issue that you advocate for helping this vaccine along the FDA review and approval process, and urging a prompt approval, as we've been doing for AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, Novavax, and other vaccines. Because yes, the priority should be to vaccinate everyone and not have these ridiculous waits of many months to get a vaccine.
Let me just see here. I just want to look really quick, actually, because we're speaking about that, because I'm pretty sure that here is starting to really get it covered. Coronavirus vaccine clinic. I just want to see if it's at the Camden University or they have one in East Brunswick also, but I'm pretty sure it was the one down here.
Yeah, the priority of who gets it and when is also a big issue in a lot of states. But usually your Department of Health, like for New Jersey, would oversee that and change who's the priority and not the priority. But again, as we're saying, you from a lower level of politics can influence that.
Yeah, and then like I said though, I think oh yeah, here it is. I'll put this link for you guys. But they seem to be handling it pretty well here. I'm just gonna put these two links for you guys real quick.
Vaccine rollout underway, expanding in coming weeks. They're planning, this was from January 13th, so over a month ago. It'll be interesting to see how they have advanced since that time. Hopefully they're a lot farther along. So they say on the website, the eligibility has been expanded to include phase 1A and certain individuals in phase 1B, plus all the following: persons aged 65 and older. So they're a little farther along than most of Nevada. And then persons aged 16 to 64 years old who have any of the following conditions. Interesting. They're administering the Moderna vaccine.
Oh, okay. So it looks like it's a coronavirus vaccine clinic.
Right,
that
not
they opened up.
development,
Not that
but-
they made the development.
Right.
Mhm.
They're just administering it. So it's one of the distribution sites, essentially.
Yeah. Well, at least
That's fine.
that's something.
And one would hope that every county, every city has at least one of those. Otherwise, life would be very difficult for people there indeed.
I wonder if there's any ability for the schools to help them to produce the vaccine here.
But one thing you could do, of course, the more people are vaccinated, the easier it will be to hold public events as well as to reach out to
Yeah.
people. But until that happens, one thing you could do is essentially try to find ways to interact with smaller numbers of people or even one-on-one, but very thoroughly, and talk to them in detail about your campaign and what you're seeking to accomplish. And of course, if they're willing to have that kind of conversation with you, they'll be willing to sign the petition. It would take a lot of work, but it would be safer from a pandemic standpoint. And I think
That's
voters
really the way I was going to do it, because I didn't know any other way else to do it with this. I was just going to go kind of on an individual basis. Although there are like bodegas and places that are going to put up my signs and pass out flyers and do things like that. And I did call the election commission. So I am allowed to start advertising before the signatures, like with the actual.
Oh, of course.
So that was, I wasn't sure if I had to get the signatures before I could petition, or, everything's so different everywhere. So, so I am allowed to do that. And, so I may be able to see like, if the owner could be one of the petitioners, and I can have flyers there and things like that. If she can, gather signatures throughout the day there, because she said, she would help me as much as she could. And that may be a way to reach a little more than, well, no, it still would be pretty one-on-one, but, a lot of people come there, like versus like knocking on doors and stuff like that. But I am, I was really just going to be, so you can sort these lists by registered voter. And then you can also sort it by what they're registered as, Democratic or Republican or Independent. And then you can also sort it by zip code, because we have like five zip codes here. So I can see like the ones that are like closest, like kind of in the area. And then ones like, maybe I want to go to the Independents first. Maybe I want to, or whatever, but I can, and you can just kind of check off the addresses that way. And again, it's also like the people that sign that, it's also more of a potential vote for me in the general too. so everybody that I speak to. I kind of figured I would just be door knocking stuff from when I get the list on until November. Is really like we've kind of made plans where I'm doing as much as I can during the day, and then I'll come work on the house a little bit at night. But but my husband's just working on it, and we kind of just like everyone's just like, no, focus on it, Jen, just get it. Like no pressure, just go get it done. But so that they're be very helpful in allotting for me to have a lot of time to go, door knock and talk to everyone individually. So yeah, because I don't know what else to do. It's not the same to have put out a thing, come to a gathering. Can't really do it.
Yes, and you could consider, at least at some point, holding a virtual town hall, but maybe that could come a bit later, especially as you spread awareness about your campaign, so that by the time you hold it, enough people will at least have the name recognition that they'll be interested in attending.
Yeah, that's an idea too. Yeah, let's see. Yeah. I have my I was raised in a door knocking doomsday cult. So I have a lot of previous experience door knocking, except what I was door knocking for at that time wasn't anything of any real relevance or value to anyone. It was unbeknownst to me because I was born in it. But, so I'm not uncomfortable. But one thing that could be plucked from that scenario is I'm not uncomfortable to go up to persons and knock on the door and talk to them. I would want to get to know all of them anyway. So yeah.
Yes, indeed. Well, you seem to have the attributes needed to run such a campaign.
Thanks,
a lot
Gennady.
of people would be shy about doing that kind of very direct outreach, and they would actually want to have a bit more of like a formal venue where people can approach them and then they'll answer their questions. But if you're comfortable knocking on doors, great.
Yeah, knocking on doors and just going to the local stores and talking to everybody. Then I get to hear too from them really very directly what the issues are that are bothering them the most. Sometimes there's stuff I didn't even think of. So maybe it's something that could be considered a little more obscure of an issue, like not affecting as many as the stuff that I've been thinking of or something like that, that they bring up. And I'm like, my goodness, let me look into that, and I want them to be able to have that same rapport with me and be able to talk to me about what the needs are, because I work for them. So yeah. We'll see. It'll be interesting.
All right. Well, we're coming up on the 2-hour mark, and I want to offer John and David one last opportunity to ask any questions.
I'm actually good. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you for being here, David.
Yeah, I have no more questions other than I'm glad you're moving from the direction of activists to being a politician. And I wish you luck.
Thank you.
And
John.
I think it's great. As activists, a lot of times you talk about making a difference, and you're putting yourself out there to actually, walk the walk and talk the talk. So that's great.
Gonna try. Thank you.
All right. So I think we have a good understanding of next steps. So whenever you can provide that, we will post it on the website and then begin the process of seeking the members' endorsement. And hopefully that will be fairly concise. I think we'll give them about 7 days to vote. And then after that, if the majority endorse you, then you will be our endorsed candidate. We could even set up a virtual enlightenment salon at some point in the future and go from there.
Okay, that sounds great.
And one of the advantages, once you set up all of the logistics, if you have your own campaign bank account and interface for people to donate, we can encourage our members to donate, because then it would be directly to your campaign
Yeah.
Nobody else would be an intermediary. They can just give money straight to you. And it seems that in your current position, a few small donations can go a long way. So if somebody donates
Yeah.
$100, that would be a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal. One good thing is I think because it is like a smaller population and things like that. It's not obviously not going to be the campaign's costs of running for president, or even running in a huge area where you have to be on the TV all the time or something like that. So really, the fees seem like they're going to be just regular registration fee, the marketing materials, which we're really looking at. A good friend of ours owns one of the buildings that's down, John will know this actually, but down by the tolls to that are by Philadelphia and Camden. So there's a lot of exposure there because of the people that are driving in and out to Philly to go to work in Camden. So he wants to put a big like building size banner there, which the printing of that can cost money. But
Yeah, that would be
and
very helpful. That's a good location.
yeah, it's a very good location. And the other candidate won't have it because he doesn't have that building. So that would be good. And he owns quite a bit of houses in the city. Anyway, 100 maybe. So he wants to put signs in front of, the little yard signs that they have in front of each of them, and again, any stores that'll let me put the flyers and things like that, and just really get, things around. So, but I think just those printouts of that and the website, unless I'm able to get the entire thing donated, it's probably not going to be that much, maybe like $300. It looks like it'll be to build it, because I do have people that are going to at least partially donate some of it. So far, I just kind of put out a little thing the other day. So it was like, a couple of days ago, hey, does anybody want to help with graphics design kind of deal? But like you said, if it is $300 and someone donates 100, they just paid for like a third of the website, or they paid for me buying another batch of names, or something like that. So it's really like names, then the marketing materials that are going to go out and stuff like that. So it's a manageable number, and really anything that I get out, even if I go knock on a door and no one's home, and I put a little door tag on the door, or something like that, or they are home and I give them a flyer or something like that. Anything that I'm doing, since the other candidate is not advertising, is really helpful, because anything getting out there is really getting seen. But so I don't think it's gonna be a fortune. It's just that everything that someone does help is just gonna most likely help us cover the city, and hit more people with the marketing. So yeah.
Great. And hopefully, once you do get the endorsement, there will be enough interest among the members to help out in that way, particularly because the amounts are well within many people's means.
That would be lovely. Regardless, as I said, we're expecting to do something like this. We expected, man, we may just have to do this ourselves, so, and we will just try to get as much as we can out and paid for and around. But anything like that can help. It can even help, like you said, we may be able to have somebody really come and be a hardcore petitioner, maybe over from the school, from that can help, or something like that, from the political science department that would want to volunteer, or I guess you can pay people to do it, or I'm not fully aware how that works when you would try to pay someone to do signature collections, or whatever.
People have done it before. There are even entire companies that have specialized in it. I know Christina Tobin, who runs the Free and Equal Elections Foundation, before she did that, she used to have a company that helped candidates from various parties get ballot access. And sometimes she would get tens of thousands of petition signatures for them.
That would be wonderful. Yeah, I know Sasha had mentioned something about like there may even be some other people like, you know, like other organizations like that that may be helpful that I can reach out to that are more centered around independent people too, you know. But yeah, and I mean, like I said, I had mentioned that the Transhumanist Party was who I was considering running on anyway, because my ideals are the most aligned with you guys, you know, but they have that clause that, you know, that restriction, you just can't.
Right. And that shouldn't affect our ability to endorse you or your ability to say that you've been endorsed by
Yeah.
us, because
Oh,
technically,
no, yeah,
right.
it doesn't.
Yeah, any individual or organization can endorse a
Yeah.
candidate, and that's one of the interesting things that we found out. So it's very difficult to get on the ballot as a political party, but one could still achieve a similar effect through
Yeah.
endorsing an independent candidate.
Yeah, and I have no issue with saying I'm a transhumanist. I've been like that since I was little. So yeah. Well,
right,
I appreciate
wonderful.
everything, guys. Thank you so much.
Yes, certainly. And I hope that everything proceeds well for you. Hopefully the
Thank you.
renovations in your house will go smoothly, and maybe you'll be able to get some rest soon as well.
Probably not, but that would be great. Try not to get too burnt out.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
All
have
right.
a good night. And thank
Thanks.
you, David and John, for your comments and questions as well.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thank you for being here.
You bet. Good night, all.
Good night.
Thank you.